Big development there in West Asia. Hamas's leadership has been wiped out. But what next? Sharren Haskel, member of the Israeli Knesset, someone who serves on the National Security Committee there, also joining us. Thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. You know, this is
Hello, good evening.
A big development as far as the war against Hamas is concerned. The leadership has been completely wiped out by the IDF. Is this the end of Israel's fight against terror group?
Well, it really depends on the continuation. I mean, not all of its leadership has been eliminated, but the monstrous, monsters who actually committed crimes against humanity, against our people. And that's a clear message that we will hunt our enemies, those monsters who are capable of committing such atrocities, such horrifying actions. We will hunt them and we will bring them in. And with that message, I hope it resonates among other Hamas activists who might think about taking up a leadership in this terrorist organization, not to do it. What we need to do in order to finish the war in Gaza is for them to bring back our family members that are being held captive as hostages in those dungeons of torture. We are waiting for our babies, for our sisters, our cousins, our parents, our grandparents who are being held in Gaza, being tortured, being sexually abused, physically abused. And when they come back home, that's when this episode can be behind us and we'll be able to start healing.
Ms. Haskel, like you said, the focus is now going to be on ensuring that all of those being held hostages for over a year now, they are released. But is there a plan of how that's going to happen? Because we've seen the kind of offensive that the IDF, that Israel has led against Hamas for over a year now. But unfortunately, the whereabouts of those hostages is still unknown.
Well, this is a very difficult and complex situation, obviously. And trust me, if there was a good deal on the table, we would have taken it. There's two ways to bring them back home. One is a deal that will ensure all of them coming back home alive, whoever is still alive, to bring them back. And then by a diplomatic agreement, we can do that. But time after time, Hamas leadership refused. And so the other option is to go and get them ourselves. We cannot leave them in Gaza. And so these two options are only on the table. I hope that the people who are now holding our family members in their homes, in their dungeons, in those tunnels, will rise up, will come, will surrender, and will bring them back to us. If they will do that, this episode can end peacefully and calmly. But if not, we will make sure we will go and get them.
But you know, Ms. Haskel, a lot of criticism has also come Israel's way, or the IDF's way, as far as using force in the Gaza Strip is concerned, that this force has been excessive in nature. How do you respond to those allegations?
Well, I understand that these are people who have probably never seen horrifying sights like we've seen here. I mean, you tell me, okay, if Pakistan tomorrow will attack India, okay, murdering tens of thousands, if I try to compare it by percentage, it would probably be hundreds of thousands of Indians would be massacred, murdered. Little girls would be raped. Babies will be burnt. Grandparents will be murdered in the most horrifying ways. What would India do? How would it react to Pakistan? What would happen if thousands of Indian babies and little girls and grandparents would be held hostage in Pakistan? How would India react to that? And what would happen if they would hide behind civilian population? I can promise you this. Every parent, every sister, every son would go out there to bring them back home, their loved one. And that's exactly what Israel does. We don't talk about proportionality. What does it mean, proportionality? That we need to find now a big festival, a big event in Gaza and massacre all of them? We need to find exactly 30 babies and behead them? We need to find, 50 little girls and rape them? Does that mean proportionality? I'm sorry, but our standard and our moral are far higher than that. We are trying to make sure that civilians are being kept away from harm. We give warning like no other nation, no other army had gone through the length of trying to prevent civilian casualty like Israel. And we send warning, we try to evacuate them, we do as much as we can to try and prevent it. But unfortunately, because we do that, Hamas is actually taking that as an advantage and is hiding behind this population. We know that many times when we evacuated refugees to go, for example, from the north to the south, they actually smuggle our family members, our hostages, through those corridors. So they're using and they're abusing our goodwill in trying to prevent civilian casualty. And sometimes we are capable of doing that, but sometimes we can't, unfortunately. And it's absolutely devastating. But we have to make sure that here in Israel, our children will be protected and that something like the 7th of October massacre will never happen again.
Do you think then that there is a false equivalence that is being drawn because there is sympathy for the Palestinian cause around the world? Do you think there's a false equivalence being drawn between the Palestinian people, people of Gaza, and terror groups like Hamas?
Absolutely. Look, our war is not just in the battlefield. Our war is in the media, it's in the social media. They have invested billions of dollars. Al Jazeera is the mouthpiece for the Muslim Brotherhood. And they're spreading lies and blood libels all around the internet. Complete fabrications, complete lies. And against a machine that works like that is very difficult and actually shape the minds and the position of people all around the world. It's very sad, but you need to understand that what we're facing today, we are at the verge of a third world war against radical Islam. Those radicals want to fight our values. That's what they're fighting against. Values of freedom, of democracy, freedom of religion, of worship, freedom for women rights, for minorities. Okay, that's what we're actually fighting against. Look what happened in Bangladesh with the Hindu population there as well. Okay, it's devastating, but it comes from the same idea of Islamic dominancy, a world caliphate that will dominate the world. And the leader right now is going between Iran and between the Muslim Brotherhoods. And they're fighting on the ground. You see what's happening in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen. You see what happens to the people of Iran by the IRGC. And you see how they're trying to spread all around the world. It's the same ideas. It's the same fight. It only looks a little bit different. And while Al Jazeera, being the mouthpiece for the Muslim Brotherhood, is actually trying to influence the minds and the thoughts of the population to push their perception and their ideas and their ideology, it's very difficult for a small country like Israel to actually fight it back. But reporters and news outlets and social media and people who are on it, it's very important for them to share the truth, to share facts, to share the light, information. People have to be informed. And I believe that the more people find this information, then the more they understand what a bloodthirst and monstrous enemy we are actually facing. Not just us, but people all around the world.
And you spoke of a third world war, so I want to take it off from there. It's not just limited to Hamas or Hezbollah as far as Israel's fight is concerned. There's also a bigger conflict that seems to be raging in that region with Iran getting into it, with perhaps Russia watching from the sidelines and wanting a part of it as well. You've been a combat soldier yourself. You've been out there in the field. How long do you think this is going to go on for? And is there a solution for this to be stopped?
Well, look, that idea of radical Islam is spreading around the world. Look on Hezbollah. Hezbollah is the main army of Iran. That's the operation that they're carrying out. The Hezbollah is actually controlling the illegal drug and weapon trafficking routes in Central and South America. They are well based in Europe as well, and they're trying to spread all around the world. This is going to take time. This is radical Islam that is fighting against people who value and fight for freedom, for their rights, for their liberties. And I don't see that going anytime soon. On the contrary, I see that will grow. There's three leadership that are trying to push it, and it's the Muslim Brotherhood, it's Iran, it's Turkey as well, who see themselves as the leader of the world Muslim, domination, or however they will call it themselves. And so you'll see it everywhere. And what you see with Russia and China, these are strategic allies for economical purposes, for weapon purposes, and it's quite dangerous. You see China, North Korea, Russia, and Iran already training together. And that's quite worrying. It's worrying not just for the Middle East, but for you as well, for Asia, for South and Central America, where Hezbollah is very well set there as well. This is something that if the international community and world leader don't stand together like an iron wall, we will be defeated, because it's going to be very difficult for every country separately to try and combat those radicals in their own country. But if we stand together, if we join forces against those radicals, we'll be able to defeat it far quicker and with less casualties.
Absolutely. It's not just for West Asia or for Israel, but all of the world that this ends soon, and that we do not see this get any out of hand any more than that we already have. But Sharren Haskel, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18 and sharing your perspective.
Thank you very much.